Quite the coincidence. You're wearing black, I'm wearing black. We both have good mics today. Like, this is the first time ever on my podcast somebody has a really good mic.
It's you'll be surprised what it is for. It's not for any meetings,
Then
but yeah,
you
it's for
sing?
game. Yeah. So
Nice, nice. Long back, huh? 2020, you were saying.
yeah, 2020, 2021, around then.
Oh.
It was for C 2021. Yeah.
Hey, were you part of that lockdown wala batch?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God, yes. I distinctively remember your LinkedIn ka profile picture. I was like, kahan dekha hai? Mayank sounds so familiar, so familiar.
Yeah.
Where? And the major Mayank.
Yeah.
वो याद था मुझे. मैंने कहा यार कहाँ कहाँ याद नहीं आ रहा है.
Hmm.
Interesting, interesting. Quite a journey you've had, Mayank.
Yeah, it has been quite eventful.
Interesting. All India rank 1 NID में M.Des, Universal
Yeah.
Design.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Um, I still don't believe it, and I still don't think it's a big deal. It sounds really weird,
Hmm.
but it's just, I guess it's just nice knowing that you've gotten it. That's it. Like, that's the part where I'm like, okay, that's great.
Right.
But yeah.
Interesting. Quite modest, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Being honest, you'd be surprised the way I check the results out. So
Tell me
when
about
the
it.
results came in, I mean, the results were getting delayed,
Huh.
and I was actually sleeping, and my parents were really anxious. Ki
Okay.
aaj results aayega, you'll get to know all your marks and stuff. And what actually happened
Hmm.
was my dad came up to me, "Hey, the results are out. What's up?" And I took out my phone,
Huh.
logged in, saw my results. Oh, rank one. Okay. Closed my phone, slept. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then I just woke up in the evening because it was a Sunday. I think, yeah, it was a Sunday. I
Huh.
just woke up in the evening.
Huh.
Then I went to my dad. My
Huh.
dad came and he's like, "Did the results come?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got my results." He's like, "Show me." And I showed it to him. And then, yeah, there was just, I was in disbelief all this while. And my
Hmm.
dad was like completely losing it. He, yeah, like, "Why didn't you tell me?" I'm like, "Sona tha." So, yeah.
Interesting, interesting. So, how many years of preparation, huh? To
Um,
run?
Actually, effectively one. Uh,
Hmm.
so the first time when I joined, I was really like filled with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Back then, I mean, I was also in like my final year of college.
Yeah.
So I just pretty much
Hmm.
like I had a lot of energy. So I prepared like with a lot of, interest and stuff.
Hmm.
And I did not clear it the first time. I did like I was so unaware. For NID, I only registered for like one field because I thought easy me to interest there. Like I don't know about the other fields. Why should I just because I did not know about the other fields.
Hmm.
And seed also like the only thing I did was solve part A because I thought ki part B I can't do it. Like I remember talking to you
Hmm.
and you said nobody really gets full in part A.
Yeah.
I'm like, अब मैं करके दिखाएगा. Like
Nice.
it's a very weird. I know it's a very weird way to go about it, but I thought back then I was like, if I can't get through part B, let me try getting it to part A. And so the problem was when I wrote C the first time, I knew the evaluation criteria and stuff, so I knew they would like not evaluate part B if the part B is not good, and I messed up my part A. And I knew this in the examination hall because I had taken a lot of time in the NED section.
Hmm.
So the thing was now I had to give part B knowing it's not gonna get evaluated. So that was a big challenge.
Hmm.
So and then like it was fine. So for this attempt, I really just did not prepare much, honestly. It was more so just refreshing whatever I knew and then
Yeah.
like realigning myself in that mood and like you get exhausted. Oh, I'm doing the same thing again. So
Yeah.
that's really important to just, I guess cut yourself off and then just reset. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really important. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense actually, because it's all about thinking, right? It's all
Right.
about how you think, how you approach. Uh, Not in terms of exam or questions, but in terms of in general life also,
True.
right? So uh, something that we learned, like it happens with me also, something that I learned a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, that just stays in my mind
Right.
and sort of shapes my way of thinking over the course of next few years. And then I realized, okay, yeah, I was able to implement this, something that I picked up in a conversation that I was having,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's really hard to like explain that to someone.
yeah,
Like my mom used to come up to me and like, how do you know this? And I'm like, I can't explain that to you. Like, it's really hard to tell you, that this is how I know because this I got to know by some random vegetable seller
yeah,
on a street on
right,
some day, and I just
right,
know it now. So
right. Makes a lot of sense, man. So you worked as well
yeah.
after
So
your
after my
bachelor's.
first thing, after it went downhill, this is the thing. So I was also in my final year, right? I decided to just go for a job because the only thing I was scared of was if I start working,
Hmm.
then that might distract me from my CEED or NID preparation,
Hmm.
which it did because then when you get like your first salary and like everything,
Hmm.
it's just here. You know what? I can pause it for a while. So that's what happened with me. It was a great job,
Right.
and yeah, it paused, and then for a while I was working,
Huh.
but then this was always at the back of my mind, like this is what I want to do anyway. Like
Hmm.
right now, it's just a brief pause. So while working, my work wasn't really that hectic. I could say, like I was able to manage it well. So I would have like really good work life schedule. So I would talk to my manager. I'm like, hey, it's 6. I need to go now. And
Hmm.
so they used to be like, ऐसा क्या करना है? So I would be like, हाँ मेरे को नीचे खेलने जाना है. Like it used to be very candid, and it didn't sound really, I guess, professional. But I guess my manager was also pretty nice, so
Hmm.
that helped. And yeah, that post 6, I slowly started towards like the September October. I started preparing like with my work.
I see a lot of discipline there. Come on, accept it, Mayank.
it's it's not discipline. It's more so like used to see all these videos on YouTube on how you shouldn't like waste your work life, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, done. Let me be assertive. It's not that
Mm.
hard. So
Right.
that,
No,
yeah.
that's good. That's good. So coming from a completely non-design background, okay,
Mhm.
and yes, you have spent your time researching, understanding what you have to do. How did you zero down on universal design?
So unlike the first time, this time I went through a lot of like the fields. And I started to see that this is like on the side, but what I was doing when I used to be free, like when I was not working, I don't watch TV series, which sounds really weird.
Oh, it's
Uh,
not.
yeah, no. So the thing is, when I don't spend time doing all sorts of like regular stuff, I'll be building stuff, and I sort of take time into just building things. So randomly one day, one video came up on my feed, MIT Makeup Portfolio,
Mm,
and students had made various things, and that's their portfolios in a video format, which they send it to MIT, I think. And it's a much more engineering thing, but the way they were approaching it sort of reminded me of what I used to enjoy when I was a kid
mm,
and what I would rather do right now.
yeah.
And so when I saw that, I was like, you know what? Let me just build stuff. And so in my free time, I used to like build a mouse, build a
Mm,
keyboard. If there's something wrong in my house, I would just fix it like in a weird way. I just realized that a lot of things that I was doing, a lot of my projects were all catering to universal design
okay.
unknowingly. I did not know universal design. I initially thought universal design is a field that I was not interested in.
Okay.
Like, I do not really want to make wheelchairs. Like, I know it sounds rude, but then I do not want to make wheelchairs, right? But then I saw this TED talk. So as you could say, as candid as you can be about a field, I started seeing all these TED talks, all these talks by prominent designers, right? They were talking about accessibility, and that sort of broke down a lot of my, notions, my biases against the field.
Right.
And then I understood, like, there was this one line by this one person. She said, "You when you design for the disabled, you design for everyone," and
Yeah.
that's sort of snapped. And I'm like, you know what? This is genius. Why do I have to make something specific? I can make it for everyone, right?
Mm.
So that sort of helped. So my like the mice I was making, it was for people who, like, when they say ambidextrous mice, which it's not really, like, it's only for right-handed because the buttons are on the left side. So I'm like, you know what, let me make a mice that caters to different hand sizes and to different like sides, like the buttons on different sides, in a
Mm.
way that's universal design. And I decided to just pick it up, like, hey, this is what I want to do. Like, great, taking it.
That's interesting. So when you were researching, I think this is not from the point of view of okay, अच्छा चलो अब research करते हैं, अब देखते हैं. I think this is more of curiosity to know about uh,
Yeah,
more about design या फिर क्या कर रहे हैं, like what
right.
people are doing, right? It was more of that. So that's a good approach to take when you're preparing for not even exams. I think in general when you're planning to get into any other field also, specifically for that matter, where you're talking about design now. So being curious about design in general is very important.
Right, yeah, yeah,
And this sort of reminds me of one quote. I was also watching, like I used to watch a lot of TED Talks back then. And there was one, I think, urban planner, somebody who said that if you design with the blind in mind, then
yeah,
your cities would look different.
yeah.
So that was something that stuck with me also when I was, and part of the reason why I had, when I was appearing for an ID, I had one project which was also aimed at blind people. So I kind of relate to that, where that
Yeah,
is coming from. So interesting. And what was the mindset shift that you needed from first attempt to the second attempt? Because first attempt is rejection,
right,
right? And no matter how disconnected you are with that exam or the result, you still feel rejected.
right, yeah.
You still didn't make it. Okay. It's like it's there right in the face, staring at you, like, okay, nahi hua hai is bari. What would you do? What did you do after that?
I guess the second attempt really involved me. So the first attempt, I was focused on the exam. When I saw the kind of questions they were asking in the exam and I picked up the paper, it was something I could do. But then when that also didn't happen, like it was a really bad feeling, like you have an idea of yourself and now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's below that now. It was really bad. But then like I realized when I saw the paper for
Mm.
that year, I knew that I could do it. So I guess the only thing in like the attempt after was that I just did not care about the exam. I'm like, this exam is just one criteria. And if I don't like clear this exam, it's all right. But I need to approach this exam with like a lot of love, honestly. This is something I really enjoy. Like when I was learning things, I was really enjoying. And midway through like my other
Mm.
attempts, I started to notice this pattern that I was getting frustrated. I wouldn't like eat food, or I wouldn't like, I would have messed up sleep schedule. I wouldn't go do the things that I really enjoy, like playing with my friends or just hanging out in general, just because I thought this exam is, really important. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of times we feel like we have to make ourselves busy so we feel productive. It's a thing that a lot of people do. I do, at least. And I think that was something I realized very early on. Like, I don't have to keep myself busy to have a productive preparation thing that's happening. I guess the second attempt really involved me being just myself. I would pick up questions from ceramic design.
Yeah.
There would be a question: if a plate is broken into like multiple pieces, what can you make out of it? I'm like, let me see what I can make out of it. I mean, I really enjoyed the process. I guess that's all I would say. That's the only shift that happened. I did not prepare as intensely as before. So that was a shocker when I actually cleared it. I did not, you know, like certain things, like you, when I think I remember multiple people telling me, you especially told me like, hey, just practice a lot of straight lines. My sketches were really bad initially, but then when I was making the straight lines, that was very therapeutic. So I'm like, I'm gonna do this because I enjoy it, not
Yeah.
because I really want to get better at sketching because I'm done. Like, ho
Mm.
gaya mera.
Uh,
But at the same time, because I was taking this with a lot of love and interest, I think that really helped. When I approached the questions in the exam, it was with a lot of enthusiasm, curiosity. Like there was no fear in the examination hall. I was sitting and there was this random person, and I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And they were all, everybody's like tensed, right?
yeah.
Like, the girl next to me asked, "Are you prepared? You look confident." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting rank one." And the thing is, I am in touch with a lot of these people,
Uh,
and now that I have rank one, I'm like, I do not know how to talk to these people now. Like, oh my god, the
this is nice.
even in my like what do you say, the things to achieve, there's a
Mm,
page on my thing. I did not write, or things to do, I did not write study for NID or study. I was
mm.
like, get NID rank one, that's it. And like it was just written. Now that it happened, it's a weird feeling like, oh, मैंने तो ऐसे ही लिखा था, like, to
Yeah.
orient yourself in a success mindset. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what actually happened. So yeah, that was quite funny, honestly. But
Very interesting. See, I think every year speak to a lot of design aspirants and through Design X, through podcast, any which ways, people who or parents of relatives, मतलब cousins के या फिर second cousins, third cousins, design में क्या है ऐसा, you know, they ask, and then I explain it to them, and they say, oh, okay, इतना कुछ है क्या design में, so that's the usual understanding of what they have. And when I talk to their students, like for example, last month there was one of the relatives from US who was visiting, and his son was into jersey design.
oh.
14 years of age. It's like, यार jersey design मतलब ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है, like not like a jersey design. Then I sat him down and I was explaining him the whole process. I showed him the process of a few jersey designs that I know like personally, and the whole process. It's not the outcome that we are focused on.
Yeah.
It's about the process that we go through in
So true.
making the right decisions.
Yeah.
And that same thing that I see in the design process that we do. And I
Mm.
think that's same in your design journey till now also. Because you were not really ठीक है लिख दिया, but you were not like fixated on हाँ यार वही चाहिए मुझे.
Yeah.
You're not like that. So that really helps in achieving the good result.
Right. I guess. Yeah. You're right. You're right about that. Even in the interview, they did ask me, like, what if we do not select you today?
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I was doing this before NID. I
Mm,
will come to like my portfolio projects. I was like, I was doing this before NID.
mm,
I'm going to continue doing this.
mm,
Whether I choose to write the exam or not is really more dependent.
mm,
But this is what I'm going to continue doing because this is what I enjoy.
mm.
Honestly, I think that's true. Like you need to just enjoy what you're doing.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the exam. What do you by any chance remember the questions sort of what they asked you in the domain specific one?
Some of them.
Okay.
I honestly gave two papers, so now I'm like a little like this. I'm convoluted in my head, and
Mhm.
like which question was of which exam.
Uh-huh.
But and it was a 6 hours paper, so I can tell you about the questions. I just don't real. I don't think I
Fine.
remember if it was like from universal design.
It's fine.
I think one of the questions was making a product for a dog for a user who was really far away, so he can interact with the dog. That was really fun. I remember seeing this one viral TikTok product, which was some people playing hockey in like football indoors with this, it's like a plug. It's like an air football thing, like an air hockey thing. But and I'm like, I can make something out of this. I took that, modified it into a dog's
Hmm.
toy
Hmm.
that can be controlled by a user that was far away. There
Nice.
was other questions, but I think the initial, like the prelims, was okay, I think that mains was like really fun,
Hmm.
where we studio tests and stuff. And so one of the questions was, and that's where I was actually, I came across questions that I did not really see. It was new, it was different. Abhi tak, the questions I would see were honestly something I could have a startup mindset to it. Like, I used to do this a lot with my friends. Like, hey, let's start up karte hain. And like, we would come up with a random problem. We wouldn't go about the business side of things,
Hmm.
just the execution side of things. And it would be mostly me talking, but it would be really fun. But the studio test had this question. One of them was, you need to design a teaching aid for a blind student.
Hmm.
And they gave you a bunch of materials. They give you like feathers, they give you clay, bamboo straws, and like two types of board. And they're like, banao, jo bhi banana banao. And you have to do this within like 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Arey, ye banana hai. Oh shit. that that was like different because I
Right.
had prepared for that. And I'm like, why am I panicking? Let me make something up. This is what I do.
Hmm.
And I'm like, and then like all good. And that's where I just calm myself down instantly. And so I was making this product where it was like a tower,
Hmm.
and all the materials they gave represented the letters. So feathers they gave, it became F.
Hmm.
So you only had to represent three letters from any dialect, any
Okay.
language.
Okay.
Yeah, I took English. I'm like, that's that. That's fair. Let's keep it simple. And like made something, and it was pretty nice. At least that was the question I was most proud of. I was like, this ये सिर्फ ये validate करे तो मैं जीत जाऊंगा. They gave three questions. So the first question was like you need to sketch a wheelchair in like 15-20 minutes in another perspective.
Okay.
So I was so like there was significant gap between the prelims and
Hmm.
main, right? So they gave a wheelchair in 2 point perspective. They said sketch in another perspective. मैंने वही sketch किया flip करके. It's still like 2 point. But then like halfway through I realized wait. They mean other perspective, like 1 or 3 point, like oh, and like half the time had gone by, so I had like 7 minutes left. I'm like, hey, people can make sketches in 5 minutes. I am gonna do it. So मैंने 2 minute लिया पहले erase करने में पूरा उसको. And like half the people have it done. All these fine artists, they're making these beautiful sketches, and I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. All I have to do is just this. So I did it. Then I like finished the question, and so I'm really good physical stuff.
Hmm.
So like, visual was like a little weak relatively, right?
Right.
So I finished this, and then I flip over, and there's like whole section of like questions left on the first one.
Right.
And I only thought you had to sketch the chair in like the another perspective, but there are like more questions,
Oh wow.
and I did not answer them. But then they were not collecting the sheets, so they were just giving the next question. So the next question was, you need to design a pair of tongs
Hmm.
for someone who does not have a thumb. And I'm like, मैं बना सकता है.
Ah.
I took time, very little time to make that. I made something out of it. I sketched it out. Then I went back to the first question while everyone was doing. And I finished my first question by then. And I was happy with the second. And the third question was the teaching it for the blind student, which was like really fun. So,
I think it worked out for you because they were not
yeah.
collecting the answer sheets.
Like, oh, whoever God I said hi to that morning, like, thank you.
बता दो ना वो भी बच्चे देख लेंगे.
नहीं, everyone has got their own God, right? Yeah, take it. So, yeah, that
नहीं,
was
but
really
I think yeah, that I mean some factor of luck also plays.
a
Yes,
lot.
yeah. I think that's what we all mean when we say that okay, you can be 100% prepared, but you cannot be 100% prepared for an
Like,
ID.
true.
Yeah.
The amount of luck that was with me during this process is
Hmm.
outstanding.
Hmm.
I'm not even going to question it. I'm like, yeah, tha, main kya karu? Like, great. Let me keep it with me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, what was the interview like?
The interview was very different from what usually people talk about. Usually, as far as I've heard, when I was reaching out to people, they're like, you need to know your portfolio very well. And in my head, I was like, of course I would know. I
Yeah.
made it.
Yeah.
How would I not know? But I get their point. And so I stepped into the interview room, and initially, I think I had this whole mindset of what's the worst that could happen? Like, I wouldn't get into an ID, right? Like, it's fine. Chalo, let's see.
Hmm.
I will be myself. I do not really care anymore.
Hmm.
So when I stepped in the interview room, I'm like, "Hi guys, how was your lunch?"
Nice. That's amazing. That's, I
Like,
think, the best start. Yeah.
yeah, and they were like, "Oh, we had like a really nice lunch. What about you?" I'm like, "Oh, my friend is giving his interview in ISC. I'll have it after this." So
Hmm.
yeah, and yeah, we just started off from there. And they're like, "Hey, why universal design?" And I told them, I initially thought the universal design field was bad or not for me, rather. And then I told them how I came into everything that I've just explained.
Yeah.
And then I don't know the order of the questions, but then they started asking me, "Do you really like what were you doing before this?" I told them I am working right now.
Hmm.
This is what I'm doing. This is what I do in my everyday life.
Hmm.
And so they decided to ask me, "Do you really like your job?" I said, "Yes, I love my job." "Oh, then why are you coming here?" I'm like, "I'm coming here despite me liking my job. I like this a lot. I just happen to also like my job, but I'm choosing this now. I prefer this." And yeah, a lot more other things. They discussed a lot of my projects. So they went, oh, I had 4 projects. That's
Hmm.
it. I showed them, and they said, "How do you get time to do all this?" I said, "I mean, I don't watch TV series."
Hmm.
That's the answer I give every time.
Yeah.
So now I stuck with it, and the teacher, his name is Jonah, right? So he started laughing. He's like, and मेरे दिमाग में तो इतना funny था भी नहीं, but कोई बात नहीं. It's working in my favor. I don't
Yeah.
mind.
Right.
I don't
Right.
mind. Like, it's
Uh,
okay. They started asking, "Have you applied anywhere else?" I said, "Yes, I did." So I was initially like hesitant to answer this
hmm.
because I thought they wouldn't select me because I have also gotten through CEED.
Right.
And they're like, "Have you applied for anywhere else?" I was like, "Yeah, I've applied for CEED. Did you crack it?" I was like, "Yeah, I have a good rank there, like decent. I think I'll make it there also."
Hmm.
If you get selected between here and there, where would you go? This is the only place where I did not give like an honest answer.
Hmm.
And that was because I did not know the answer. I do not select a college before getting selected. And
Hmm.
I think that's just a weird pressure I would probably put on myself, right? So when they asked me, I told them I haven't decided yet. I think it's sort of not great for me to choose a college without getting selected. So I
Hmm.
haven't chosen NID. NID isn't my preference if I'm not selected by NID. Once I have 2 options in my hand, then I can have a preference. They said, "नहीं नहीं ऐसे ही बोलो. Like, what's your preference?" I said, "So if I were to stay in Bangalore, it's easier to take an ID Bangalore." Because I just said that because I'm like, yeah, that's just a nice way to diplomatic way to go about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not have a preference at that time. So that was what my answer was. Then, like, a couple of questions also was, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hmm.
So when I was going through other interview, your podcast, somebody was asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'll explain. I have a nice timeline. When they said 10, that caught me off guard. I'm like, 10? And I was like, give me some time to think about it. And I sat there, and there was a moment of silence. I sat there with the silence. I was just thinking, and I was like, you know what? I think what I'll do is, if whatever I start building, I've spent some time on the products I've come here. Some of them are prototypes.
Hmm.
I would like to take them into the market.
Hmm.
If it takes 10 years for them to come into fruition, then that's probably what I'd be doing. If
Hmm.
these things get over in 5 years, then I'd be working on something new. That's as simple as an answer it can get.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was my answer. So apart from this, they did ask me, "Do you know any famous designers?" I was like, Da Vinci. And like, and they're like, "Anyone from the modern era?" I was like, "No,
Right.
I do not, honestly. I'm
Hmm.
sorry." And yeah, like, I did not see the point of knowing designers. I mean, now I do.
Hmm.
Now that I've come into college, they like have taught a lot of different things. Back then, no. I study for NID, do
Ah,
your own. That was how it was.
interesting. And about your portfolio, so you had 4 projects, right?
Yeah.
So what were they about?
The first project was something I was really passionate about. So the first project was a mouse. I called it the Morpheus mouse. My portfolio is very weird. It had a lot of Marvel reference. It had a lot of Matrix reference because that's what I like. That's what it's
Hmm.
part of me. but I use that to like explain a lot of things. So it's understandable by the common person. So basically, my first project was a mouse, which so we have various grip styles for mouse when we're gaming.
Yeah.
And there's always an ongoing debate which is a good grip style, claw, fingertip, palm. And so I was like, why can't a mouse have all grip styles? Like,
Mm.
what would you need to do? You need to have the switches adjustable. You need to have, let's say, there's a mouse like here. You need to have the back side of the panel, the place where your palm rests on, that needs to change. Okay, I can come up with a concept for this. I came up with a concept that then like, hey, what else can I add? So the MVP, I made it using the sunboard and like clay for this particular project. By the way, like for prototypes, I figured this out. Sunboard and like that 743, that glue, is perfect. It's
Yeah.
just the best.
Yeah.
When anyone who doesn't have access to a 3D printer, that's the greatest thing
It
ever.
does wonders, huh?
Yeah, that was my project. A lot of this was I had also 3D printed a mouse initially to test out components. So I bought a mouse, took it apart, took the sensors, put it in a 3D printed body, like just to see how it works. So that was nice. There's a lot of stuff available on the internet, so I was just utilizing all that. Yeah, once I had something, since the 3D printing process was really expensive,
Mm.
it's like, okay, let me switch to another material. So then I started experimenting with other materials, which can sort of make a prototype, but like, yeah. So I use magnets
Mm.
and I use sunboard and like 743 and clay to
Mm.
make a mouse that works, that has like proper switches. That was my first project. My second project was a switchboard, which I had come up with a concept for when I had given NID the first time because I
Okay.
didn't know the process. So I thought I will get in.
Mm.
Many, yeah. And my NID paper went really nice that time. Or
Mm.
so I thought. I made a switchboard that eliminates confusion. So when you come inside a house
Yeah.
and you're like, it's just common day problem. Like my cousin comes in and I tell them, can you turn on the bada wala tube light? They're like, which one is it? They all look alike, right?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting prompt. Like, how can you make? So I actually made something around that. That was a switchboard. It's called the dial switch. The third project was they were digital. So
Mm.
third project was cubic move was the fourth. So I can talk about my fourth project. Oh,
Okay.
third Cupa one. So
Okay.
there was this UX course that was happening Google ka,
Mm.
and on that UX course there was this one prompt. So there's this one section of the course where they give you a prompt. You have to just come up with some app concepts. That prompt you can choose. It's like a random prompt generator.
Mm.
Just click, click, click. I came up with a prompt, design an app for a dog NGO. I'm like, okay. I went to a dog NGO. Like
Mm.
all you have to do is come up with a concept. I actually went to the NGO. I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? They're gonna
Yeah.
tell me. I went to the dog NGO. I'm like, listen, I'll make an app for you that'll help you with the adoption of the dog and stuff.
Right.
And this was me diving into all UX directly.
Mm.
So it was very overwhelming because they're like, we don't want adoption app for NGO.
Yeah.
I'm like, फिर क्या चाहिए? कहता है, this is our problem. So then I started to sit down with them. So I started making visits.
Yeah.
To make a visit with them, they need cardboard and they need newspaper. So I would collect cardboard from people. I
Mm.
would go, hey, I've come to give you cardboard. By the way, for the thing I was talking about, what are your thoughts on this? Like, I would just slip it into conversations. And that's how I was like, slowly, it became a thing where I was actually doing the whole UX thing. It was quite hectic, but I was enjoying it. Like, there are certain things which it's really hectic, but you can do it.
Yeah.
That's you. And for
Yeah.
me. So I
Yeah.
was like, I can do it. And I was doing it. And I started making this thing, and that was the app. It was more of internal organization thing that they
Mm.
needed because they had limited slots
Mm.
and all sorts of things. So that was an app for that. And the last app was a very old project, and it has a funny story for that. But the idea was ki me and my friends wanted to go for a trip to Bombay,
Okay.
right? Back in engineering,
Mm.
but they were not getting permission from their house. So I told them ki if I get you guys into a competition, we get selected.
uh,
You guys come. So IIT Bombay was hosting this competition,
Okay.
test.
Okay.
And usme there was this competition, Earth Matters. You can come up with a concept or something. I'm like, just give me your names. I'll take part. I'll
Hmm.
get in. And I actually got in. And then
Okay.
I told them कि देखो अब trip तो हो रहा है. Like now we have to go on the trip. So just tell your parents the competition is on the first day. The results are on the last day. So we had the 7 day for the trip, and we just went there.
Wow.
We didn't take part. We didn't. We came fifth.
Uh,
We were the top team selected amongst the top 15 all India.
that's nice.
But when we went there, of course, they were like better students. Like they've been working on for like so
Of
long. So
course. Of
in
course.
fifth, they were like very good prototypes. But when I went there, that sort of like, I know somewhere deep down inside, I was like, we could have won this.
Yeah.
This was amazing. If we would have taken it a little bit more seriously.
Hmm.
But then the trip was nice. So it sort of compensated. I
Oh.
think that was my fourth project. It was just a app that connects NGOs with people
Hmm.
to facilitate, work, participatory work in a different way.
Hmm.
So that was what it was about. But yeah,
That's amazing. Quite different kind of projects, different use cases, different user scenarios, and different target users as well in each of the things. So I think it's really interesting the way you've explored and the way you've even leveraged old ideas in
yeah,
a new way with a better understanding of what you have about design now.
yeah,
And for that also, of course, you had to check कि हाँ ये भी viable है या नहीं है.
yeah,
Of course you had to go through that process, but it's really nice to see that you had it all along the way. है ना, मतलब पहले भी engineering में भी there was some hint that was there.
yeah.
Yeah, this is something that might interest you.
True, true.
Everything fell into place,
Yeah, yeah.
sort of all the dots connected.
It was really funny because I did not know about designers. It came to me in parts, right?
Yeah.
There was this one elective that I had taken,
Mm,
design thinking. I did not know about it. It was the
right.
close subject to a non-engineering thing. And not that I hated engineering, it was like really fun,
Mm,
but I wanted something different. There was no photography and something. So I was like, let me take this up.
right.
And the teacher told me about this course called there's
Huh.
this, there's masters in design. I'm like, there is masters in design. I know that. Like, yeah, you can do it after. She casually slipped in conversation, and that's what got me into seeing M.Des hota hai. Oh, iska exam hota hai.
Right.
Oh, like, there's a whole new world out there I did not know about.
Hmm.
So that was pretty nice.
That's nice. So, anything towards the end of this conversation, would you want to share something to the aspirants who would be listening to this conversation?
I think two things, and that's more than enough, I
Hmm.
think, right? One, don't be scared of fine artists. I used to get very scared, very overwhelmed because I used to see the kind of quality work that they put out.
Hmm.
It just makes you feel like,
Yeah.
why would an examiner even look at your sheet after they've seen theirs, right? Like, if I was the examiner, would I look at my sheet if I see theirs? No. So it's just unnecessary pressure.
Hmm.
So I realized this very soon on that when you have to sort of solve problems, when I was seeing these random videos about people ideating on stuff, I was like, his sketches are bad,
Hmm.
just like mine, but he's getting his point across. How is he doing that? Oh, he's highlighting certain things.
Right.
Just pick that up. And so I think that was really important because I realized that, sure, that's a great field, but then everyone comes to this place with their own strengths. Just find what your strength is and then just use that.
Hmm.
Whether that's good enough for the exam or not, you don't decide, let the examiner decide. Like,
Right.
let that pressure off you. Just know that it needs to be neat and clean, convey the idea. That's more than enough. For that, sure, you need like really good skills to like represent, and that comes to practice, but you don't need it to a level which is very artistic, I think.
Yeah.
I was very much adamant on getting that same quality that someone has spent 4 years on.
Yeah.
I can't get that in like
Yeah.
2 months of just practicing straight lines.
Hmm.
And that understanding is really important. So try, and if you can represent what's in your head in the most efficient way possible, in a really understandable way that's not all over the place, then that's great. Like the representation matters, and the order of like the way you're representing it matters, but that's it. That's one. And the second is, I guess, keep doing the things you enjoy. I think we get really exhausted. A lot of my friends. So when during the entire IIT process, I had gone to all these colleges, so I met a lot of friends,
Mm,
and we talk about, initially I had this idea of helping out other students.
mm,
I never got the chance because my college has been so hectic, right? But I had this idea of helping out other students. I was talking to all these other aspirants, like friends of mine. Hey, what are the challenges you faced? What is something that's common? And a lot of things that one thing that I saw that was common with a lot of us was that when it starts, you're very like, filled with energy, but you start getting exhausted after a while because how many questions can you solve? How many? This is something you've not been doing, and
yeah.
after the initial boost, you really need to have like a clear cut motivation as to why I want to do something. That's one. Like why masters? Is it just for a job? Like you can get that without the master's degree. Like I got it. I can tell you anyone can get it. But you need to understand that it's just more so for the love of the field, I guess.
Mm,
You should probably do it. And also keep doing the things that you really love.
mm,
Don't get exhausted. That's probably it. I really think that had helped, that I could spend time with my friends
mm,
as a breather. And then
yeah.
they would, hey, how's it going? And I tell them, yeah, must chal raha hai. And then we would focus on the game. Because then I could like, acha, board game khel liya, let's get back to study. That whole switch needs to only happen if you take out some time off, If some festivals spend, go have nice time with your family, drink water, sleep nicely. Don't stay up all day. Like those are just the basics. Sounds like it's not complicated. It's very simple. Just
Mm,
take the top 10 how to be productive list, drink water,
yeah.
sleep on. Yeah, follow that. Ho jayega.
I think this is one of the brightest conversations I've had because, and I'm saying that I was holding this back towards the end of the conversation because, see, I've had conversations not only on podcasts but other conversations as well, offline, online, in person, whatnot. But the thing about this particular conversation is that you see that feeling of enjoyment in the whole process.
Yeah.
And I think that also sort of reflects in you. So that is something very important. So again, this is more at the way you are as a person and how you take things on, right? So that's a very important takeaway from this conversation. And I think something like this is not there in any of the episodes. So I am happy we had this discussion. And I'm glad that this has come out in the most candid way. That's amazing. It was amazing speaking to you, Mayank. You're in Bangalore now?
Yes, I am in Bangalore now. Like
Great.
there was this whole process. Like honestly, I could talk on and on about choosing between colleges. That's a whole headache.
Right.
Like once you get selected, but yeah, I've picked NID Bangalore. That's where I am. Do pursuing universal design. That's nice.
Why not just have a small conversation about that as well?
Um, so I got into all the IITs
Huh,
except Bombay.
okay.
The Bombay processes are really bad. I mean, not the process, I guess, the way they present information. Are you selected? Please wait for further instructions. And I'm like, अरे list
Right.
निकाल दो मेरे को पता नहीं है.
Yeah.
But that was quite frustrating as a user. But like I would definitely fix that. I have friends that I would tell them to.
Uh,
But I mean, it was really fun. So the confusion was, since I'm funding my own education, like
mm,
ID really worth the extra amount that I'm spending. I can get into Delhi. I can go to Kanpur or other places like Guwahati. It's a nice college. It's after like Bombay. It's like held really high, right? So what do I want to do? So I had these couple of criterias for a college, and this is something I really wish people know. And
mm,
if there's one other thing I would like people to know is know why you're doing a master's. Like
mm,
why? Bachelor's was fine. You got in because you were curious.
mm.
Masters, you're gonna like study again for 2 years.
Yeah.
Make sure you know why you're doing it. Like it could be anything. If it's for a job, then sure, then go into some place.
Hmm.
that's really like, has good placements. Forget about the education. You can understand a lot of things. Like the things that I'm learning right now, a lot of things I wouldn't learn it, use it at an industry. There are many things where we go into an art museum and we would start studying art and what can we pick up. It's very like there's a lot of self learning, peer learning that happens. And so that'll happen in a lot of places and you can do it anywhere,
Hmm.
honestly. But you need to be sure why you're going into a particular field. And for me, the reasons were I wanted to start my own anything. Like it could be releasing a product, it could be just a project. That
Hmm.
was one. And I wanted to network a lot. So getting a job is not my first priority, as different as it sounds, because I've come from a really good job. So I'm like, नहीं चाहिए हो गया मेरा, I can get a job again. And now I'm in the placement committee right now
Hmm.
in my college, right? So that part's sorted.
Yeah.
So the reason why I have eliminated a lot of colleges were on the idea they need to be very close to the mainland at least or the main city. So Guwahati was out. I spent there. I went there, gave the entire interview process the way it's supposed to. But when you go there, you learn a lot of things like, hey, how feasible is travel around the city? If I were to start a project, let's say within Guwahati, it's really difficult. There's a lot. It has really bad traffic and like Bangalore, but then it also has like it's far away from the city, like the main college. That was out. Roorkee was out for the very similar reason. It's close to like the closest it is to is Delhi. So my final like selected colleges were like Kanpur was out for a reason. Delhi, Bombay. These were the two colleges that I had shortlisted. बॉम्बे में हुआ नहीं. So
Hmm.
now it was Delhi and Bangalore.
Hmm.
Bangalore being my home city, I've been here. I know the city in and out. That was one criteria. So in terms of starting something, the confusion was whether I take IIT Delhi,
Hmm.
which is called the Silicon, startups boon for startups, go with that, or do I go with Bangalore, which is considered a relatively lesser great space for startups, but like, how do I go with it? So then I spoke to seniors. Coincidentally, the first person I spoke to, that person has been a part of and has headed the startup thing that all design schools are a part of. And I'm like, oh wow. So then I asked him like how easy it is for startups and stuff. He's like, it is doable. It's challenging, but it's doable. It's just a lot easier in like Delhi, perhaps, but it's still doable. Then I was like, huh, if I graduate out of college, IIT ka tag say I can get investors easier, NID I can't get it. So there were a lot of these factors. But then I think the thing that really settled down for me was why NID? It has great, like let's say great design education.
Hmm.
Not that Delhi does not, in fact, I got to know some faculty from our NID Bangalore who went to an IIT Delhi. Now she's the HOD there.
Right.
So I know people around now,
Hmm.
but the idea is that NID, it's like in Bangalore, so the city is much more comfortable. There's a less hurdle there. I know the city in and out. I have my parents, so in
Yeah.
case I need like anything, that's a nice cushion to have.
Yeah.
And the NID offers me one thing which IIT does not, which is if I go into NID, I can go into IIT as a research student
Yeah.
later on. And I can't do that other way around.
Hmm.
So I'm like, if my goal is to go into every college,
Hmm.
then let me do this. I'll go into NID right now.
Hmm.
And 2 weeks I'll go into Ahmedabad for NID. Like these are all similar colleges. So we have our 2 weeks in another college.
Yeah.
And then I would go for an exchange if that's possible. Then I'll go into any of the IIT Bombays or IIT Delhi's. And
Right.
great. Now I have four colleges ka exposure. Like
Yeah.
that was really what like sealed the deal for me for NID. That was one thing I think since it really stood out to me from a networking perspective. I
Hmm.
was like, that's great. I'll take this up. And anything regarding startups, like, sure, it's going to be challenging. Let's face them. Like,
Hmm.
okay, what's the worst that could happen? It'll fail. Okay.
Sounds
That's all.
sounds like आईआईटी बॉम्बे ने लिया नहीं तो मैं ऐसे आ जाऊंगा क्या हो रहा है.
I have my friends that I'm like, hey, look who's here.
Interesting. Interesting. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
There are more than one ways to go to a particular destination. Right?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Nice.
I'm
Cool. So before we close this episode, just for the sake of this conversation, what was your score and in both, like first and the second round?
I don't remember. It was around 75.
Hmm.
Uh, at least what I remember, the final marks.
Okay.
I got one in both, rank one in both prelims and mains,
All
which
right.
is different. The funny part about that is, मेरे को लगा वो update नहीं हो रहा है. So, like, my friend asked me like, hey, what's your rank? I said one. She's like, oh,
Huh.
bhai, you chupa
Huh.
Rustam. I'm like, I don't know how I got it, but it is a
Huh.
thing. And then later on, when the prelims thing happens, like, what's your rank? मैं बोला तो था one. they कहते नहीं change होता है. मैंने कहा change होता है. I did not know this. Oh, ठीक है. Here, one ही है. Let's
Money.
wait a second. What is this? So, that was really weird. So,
Cool. Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this on the podcast. And
super
I'm
having.
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be super interesting to listen to. I think also, I hope that the design aspirants do pick up on this, that focus on design is important and
Yeah,
rest of the things will fall into place. Focus on what you enjoy doing and rest
yeah,
of the
that's important.
things, yeah, you will end up doing that for the rest of your life. So be very picky on what you want to enjoy, what you
Yeah,
enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. All right, man. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. It's so nice talking to you.